Clark has reacted to the press conference that Stephanie White just gave today. We have to unpack it all, guys, for this one here. We got to go all the way up to Indy. Let's get it. Stephanie White walked into her first press conference as the head coach of the Indiana Fever, and she knew she had to make an impact. The franchise has had more lows than highs in recent years, and fans have been desperate for a turnaround. Today, Stephanie White let it be known she will become the new head coach of the Fever, and she quite frankly broke the internet. White took the stage and didn't hold back. She started with a powerful message about change. This wasn't going to be a season where the Fever just scraped by. She wanted to instill a winning culture, a relentless mentality, and a style of play that would shake up the league. Several players pulled up to attendance of this press conference, and no, it wasn't going to be no press conference without Sittenha being there, and I'm here to tell you she showed up. Judging by these photos right here that is circling around online, White was strategic in how she addressed the crowd. She talked about an up-tempo offense, emphasizing speed, creativity, and non-stop energy for a team that has struggled to find a consistent identity. This vision was thrilling, but also a bit intimidating. High-paced play isn't easy. It's demanding both physically and mentally. You need players who are in peak condition, able to read the game quickly and make split-second decisions, and standing right in the front row taking it all in was Caitlin Clark. The cameras caught her listening intently, her face serious, as if she was already visualizing what this new style would mean for her and the team. I can let you Stephanie White's statement know for sure. Caitlin Clark mean business about this 2024 season, because she ain't leaving no stones unturned. She is there every step of the way watching Kelly, but the real fireworks started when White made her boldest statement. She compared Clark and her teammate Aaliyah Boston to one of the most legendary duos in NBA history, John Stockton and Karl Malone. The room fell silent for a moment. It would
let you know for sure Caitlin Clark mean business about this 2024 season, because she ain't leaving no stones unturned. She is there every step of the way.
Was a huge claim, and everyone knew it. White wasn't just saying that Clark and Boston were good players. She was suggesting that they could reach an iconic level, that they had the potential to define an era of WNBA basketball. It's one thing to make a flattering comparison, but White was doing something more. She was setting sky-high expectations, and with those expectations comes pressure that Caitlin Clark knows all too well. Officially welcoming the head coach of the Indiana Fever back home, Stephanie White will begin with an opening statement on stage from President Basketball Business Operations Kelly Crosco, followed by opening statements from Chief Opera Officer and General Manager Amber Cox, as well as Coach White will then follow with questions from the media for all three Fever representatives. Clark didn't immediately react, but observers noticed her posture. She sat up straighter, her focus intensifying. For a competitor like Clark, this kind of challenge is either fuel or a weight. It can drive a player to achieve greatness, or it can become a burden that drags them down. White's comparison was a statement of bell, but it was also a public declaration that the Fever's future rested on Clark and Boston's shoulders. This wasn't just about skill, it was about leadership, chemistry, and carrying a franchise on their backs. Got incredibly talented. The importance of defense players right here, and Caitlin and Aaliyah and Lexi are a team that was incredibly fun to watch, very tough to game plan against, so I'm glad I'm going to get to work with you guys. White didn't stop there. She went on to discuss the importance of defense, and this is where things got serious. The Fever have had a notoriously weak defense in recent seasons, often unable to stop opponents from racking up points. White acknowledged that while the team didn't need to become defensive powerhouses overnight, they had to improve. We need to position ourselves to win games even when shots aren't falling, she said, highlighting the need for grit and consistency. It's a straightforward concept, but it's one of the hardest things to execute. Defense is grueling. It's about hustle, communication, and never giving up on a play even when you're exhausted. Caitlin Clark is known for her offensive brilliance, but defense, that's an area where critics have questioned her effectiveness. The stakes were being laid out clearly. Clark and her teammates were being asked to buy into a vision that required more than just scoring points. They'd have to dig deep, push past their limits, and become a more complete unit. White's emphasis on defense also hinted at something more, the understanding that the Fever couldn't just be a flashy offensive team. They needed substance, discipline, and the ability to grind out wins. For Clark, this meant evolving her game, taking on more responsibilities, and stepping up as a leader both offensively and defensively. When White talked about giving players more freedom on the court, the room seemed to buzz with excitement. Players win ball games, she said. You've got to give them the confidence to make plays. This was a significant departure from a more rigid, structured approach. White, the impact of freedom, wanted her team to play smart, but also creatively, to read the game and make decisions on the fly. This kind of freedom could be a blessing for Caitlin Clark. She's a Player who sees the court differently, who thrives on finding openings where others see nothing. Her ability to make jaw-dropping passes and take game-changing shots comes from her instincts and creativity. With White's philosophy, Clark could take her playmaking to new heights, but here's the flip side. With freedom comes responsibility. Mistakes will be magnified, and every turnover or misjudged pass could swing the game. White is trusting her players to handle that pressure, to make the right calls. Even when the game is on the line, Clark has proven herself in clutch situations before, but doing so consistently in a new system, that's a whole different challenge. The margin for error in the WNBA is razor thin, and White's expectations mean there will be no room for off nights. As the press conference continued, White emphasized long-term goals. She talked about playing the long game, about building a team that could not only make the playoffs but compete for championships. This wasn't about short-term success, it was about establishing a foundation that could last for a franchise like the Fever. This message was both hopeful and daunting. The Fever have been rebuilding for what feels like forever, and fans are tired of waiting. White's vision offered hope, but it also raised the stakes even higher. Everyone knows that if this new era doesn't produce results, the disappointment will be immense. Caitlin Clark's reaction to this long-term vision was telling. She didn't show any outward signs of doubt, but you could tell she was processing the weight of it. As a player who used to delivering in high-pressure moments, Clark understands that success isn't just about individual greatness, it's about lifting an entire team and creating a culture of excellence. But how do you do that when the expectations are so high and the challenges so numerous? Clark's mind was likely racing with thoughts about how she could be the catalyst for this change, how she could prove to everyone that White's faith in her was the impact of Caitlin Clark justified. When the press conference ended, Clark made a move that had everyone talking. She didn't say much, but she took to social media to share a photo from the event. The picture showed her, Aaliyah Boston, Lexi Hall, and Stephanie White standing together, united. The caption was simple, but the impact was powerful. Clark's decision to post that photo sent a message. She's committed, she's ready, she knows the road ahead will be difficult, but she's not backing down. It was the kind of quiet statement that can speak louder than words, a sign that Clark is embracing the challenge head. And fans, of course, went wild. The Fever's fan base hasn't had much to celebrate in recent years, but this felt like a turning point. Social media lit up with reactions, and hash supporting the Fever began trending. But not everyone was on board. Critics quickly pointed out that high expectations often lead to bigger disappointments. They questioned whether White's vision was too ambitious, whether Clark and Boston could really become the game-changing duo White envisioned. Doubts lingered, and the pressure mounted even more. And then there was the issue of the Fever's recent history. This team has been in a constant state of rebuilding, and patience is running thin. White's press conference reignited hope, but it also put a target on their backs. Other teams will be watching, analyzing every move, and preparing to exploit any weaknesses. Clark, who's already been under a microscope for most of her career, is now facing the biggest challenge. Yet the pressure isn't just from fans or media, it's from the entire league, which will be looking to test this new Indiana Fever. As training camp looms, all eyes will be on how White's plans start to take shape. Will the team embrace the new style of play, or will they struggle to adapt? How will Clark handle the increased offensive responsibilities? And most importantly, will White's vision translate into wins? There's a storm of uncertainty ahead, but one thing is clear: Caitlin Clark isn't